Welcome to Unlocking Potential, a Red Door Pediatric Therapy podcast. We're your hosts, Heather and Kelli.
With master's degrees in speech-language pathology and decades of pediatric experience, we've been the co-owners of Red Door Pediatric Therapy since 2006.
On this podcast, we share stories and strategies that can unlock the potential of functional, behavioral, emotional, and social development in children today.
Today's guest is Brandi Breitbach, Vice President of Operations and an occupational therapist at Red Door Pediatric Therapy.
Brandi, this is our very first podcast. You're our very first guest, which makes perfect sense. So thank you for coming. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I have to ask, what made you decide to do podcasts?
I think when we were looking at how to share information with parents and families and other professionals, there is just in speech, OT, and PT so much now to learn and to know, and that there were so many areas of interest. And so the best way to sort of learn more is to share more information, and there's no way to do that really in a smaller conversation. So we thought, let's just talk about the things that our staff knows the most about and likes the best and see where it goes.
Yeah, I love that. I've so often felt like I wish people had a window into the private conversations that we've had over the years.
Sure.
Because it is exciting, the things that are happening at Red Door. So to share that in a kind of casual way, I think is exciting. So happy to be here.
So we want to start our podcast by just kind of talking about how we kicked off Red Door to begin with. So the origin story is, per se, is that Heather and I met in 1996 in college. Mm-hmm. We had both chosen the same profession, which was speech-language pathology, and we got to spend lots of time together. So in addition to having classes together, we were best buddies. Up at 8 o'clock every morning, driving to campus in the cold.
A little Diet Mountain Dew, a good pen.
Yep, some peanut butter M&Ms for breakfast. So that's where we first met. And then as we were sitting in our classes, we would occasionally joke like, hey, someday when we have our own practice, we're going to do this, this, and this. And we weren't particularly serious about it. But then we graduated, had some experience at a couple different jobs, and then ended up coming back to the same city and actually starting a clinic.
I think when we talked about what should we name it, what should we call it, we wanted something that was basic, a logo that was something recognizable for both kids but looked professional, which is how we came up with just a bright red rectangle. Mm-hmm. But also, growing up, my family moved to a different house, and my mom wanted to paint the house gray, but she mentioned that she wanted to paint the front door raspberry, and my dad was like, so pink? Like, just clarifying, not judging, just clarifying. And she said, yeah, I want to have a door that people want to come in. You have to have a door that people want to come in. And I think that when we were trying to figure out what to name it, that's what resounded. And I hope, and I think that has what has stuck through all of the years and all of the changes and all of the growth and some of the growing pains that come with all of the growth, is that it remains a place that people want to come in. I think that's what we have hoped for, that it's a new opportunity for kids and families, whether it's an opportunity that you came by in a harder than average way, or it feels like a fun and cool place, and that it's an opportunity for our staff, that it's a welcoming place, that they like the feel of it, and that they're respected professionally. So I think that has kind of multiplied, certainly in its meaning and metaphor. But I hope that has stayed.
Yeah, I think when you say metaphor, that really hits home, because when you think about a door, it's a threshold, it's an opportunity. You don't always know what's on the other side, but it looks like it's pretty fun if it's red. And and the door plays in with a key. So we sort of look at ourselves as a key to communication, and communication is one of those things that is relevant in our profession because we're speech therapists, but also because it's a place to exchange information and to try new interactive communication skills. So yeah, the metaphor is really as time has gone on, really a pretty fantastic representation for what we have.
Yeah. And I think we hoped along the way that parents would feel like, or that we would feel like we noted a need in a community and we did our best to meet that need. Because I think for parents with a young child who maybe isn't following the developmental milestones like they expected, or like their younger child did, or something like that, that can be kind of a scary and heart-sinking feeling. And I think we came in and said, let us just take some of that from you with knowledge and with information and with a welcoming environment and with a staff that you feel like you can talk to and ask questions, and they'll give an answer in words you understand and not a bunch of just professional jargon. And that we respect kind of your intuition and going with your gut a little bit. And as speech and OT and PT have sort of morphed again to include all of these special programs that we'll talk about throughout this podcast, and all of these kind of niche areas that I think it's important to still be the place, like what do you need now and what do we have to offer? And as we've grown, I think the most fun thing is that our staff has grown in their knowledge base so much that they're just like, we're here to help. We're on board.
Yeah, that knowledge base and that morphing, like, don't you sort of feel like in the early days, we expanded on some of those things because we were interested in them. And then as time went on and we got more staff, those situations were our personal situations. You know, we started to have kids and learn more about many different things that affected us personally. They were services that we would potentially take advantage of, or did take advantage of for our children. So it was interest, yes, but don't you feel like it was a little bit like, oh, well, this is relevant to me, so it makes it more interesting to learn about it and expand services. And
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like I've always been really, really just proud of that fact, and I'll find myself telling people just about that concept when I meet them, or maybe in interviews for new employees, and kind of talking about the authenticity of our growth. You know, there was never like a round table discussion where we were like, we're going to grow in this area.
Right.
We just so consistently saw the need, whether it was in patients or ourselves, like you mentioned. And then we thought, you know, we can do this. And then after you have that thought, you look at your staff and you find the person who's most interested and most passionate. And so when you get to the end of it, you know, you had this authentic need, and then you had this excited person, and then, you know, the opportunity for all the education to go along with it. You have something that people can really benefit from in a way that is tangible. And so you have to be proud of that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you've been monumental in terms of even the springboard for some of our special programs that we're going to talk about throughout this podcast. You had a pregnancy 4 years ago. He's 3 now, right?
He'll be 3.
Yeah. And
Teenager.
And it had some bumps along the way that I think you were realistic about, and you said, here's the thing, this is hard for me. If it's hard for me with all I know about OT and all I know about infants and all I know about everything, then it has to be hard for so many people. So this is a need we haven't met yet.
Right.
When we talked about sort of our origin story, and we talked about when it started with Kelli and I, we thought we'll just see 10 kids a week. We'll see 10 kids a week, and that'll be good. That'll do it.
Clinic. Just
one little clinic.
One little clinic.
Couple of people. Yeah, and I think it grew at a rate that was manageable. So in looking back, I appreciate that. But as it stands today, 4 locations. Bismarck, we opened our Minot location, which is our second largest location, in September of, I always get it wrong, I think it was 2000.
It was
14. I always think 16,
I think it was 14.
But it was 2014.
I'm pretty sure.
Our second location, we opened in Minot, which is our second largest location. And then in 2020, we opened our Grand Forks location. And shortly after that, we opened, sort of reminiscent of our starting days, a little clinic in Beulah. And so 4 locations with upwards of 50 staff and a really solid client base that's much more than the 10 and 10 we thought we would see along the way.
Some multiples were in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think also within those locations, certainly speech and OT and PT have sort of grown into other areas that fall kind of under those big umbrellas. But now we offer infant feeding. Now we offer OMD, which is like
Orofacial
yeah,
myofunctional
it's
disorders.
so jargony, yes. But it goes along with a speech disorder that involves your tongue and your mouth.
Right.
I'm trying to keep it really simple. We offer dyslexia testing because that was kind of an area that was a hard one to fill for parents and families. We offer
maternal mental
health. Health. Yep, we've moved into like a food group for excessively picky eaters and kids that don't like, food textures and things like that. So it's moved into a lot of different and exciting and really interesting areas, I think. So if you are a listener of this podcast, kind of as we slug through this first one, there are lots of topics that if you have kids or grandkids or nieces and nephews, or you are an educator, or you are a daycare provider, or anything kind of that gives you an interest in the pediatric population, there's a lot to touch on.
Absolutely. And I feel that same way about people coming up in the therapy world who might be in college or looking for their first job. We have such great OT, PT, and speech services that just cover, the basic developmental milestone stuff,
right,
where you can get such great experience. But as you become seasoned, you can really kind of follow your passion into an area of specialization. And I think that is such a cool opportunity for therapists that are kind of up and coming. You don't always get that opportunity, I don't think, to really, build your base skill, but also go after something specialized. And so when I meet people and interview them for jobs, I always talk a lot about that opportunity, and it's so exciting for people. So whether, you want to be a professional or you're a parent who needs help, I feel
right,
like we have a lot to offer in that way.
I think certainly a priority of this podcast is that we want it to be an outlet and an avenue for parents to learn more, to get answers to questions that they maybe didn't even know that they had, or to find information that says to them, this is kind of what I was worried about or what I was thinking about. And I didn't know how to say it, or I didn't know what question to ask, but now this is what I'm thinking about.
It's important for us, I think, to validate when parents have a gut feeling about something.
Absolutely.
And they may not be able to put their finger exactly on why they're feeling that way, or if they're observing some behaviors with their child that they have questions about. I think that's our number one thing, is that we always want to validate what parents, even grandparents, people who live with the child or teenager or young adult, that there are often reasons for why those things are there. And seeking a professional, oftentimes more than just one professional, we have found to often be, there are issues there that perhaps no one else can take a real finite look at, which
Sure.
is what we do.
Yeah. I think for any parents listening, we're here to provide an answer to your questions, whether it be about developmental milestones. If you're just starting out with a child who, isn't talking yet, isn't walking yet, those are some red flags. I think we want to meet you where you're at in terms of your concern and your gut instinct. I think we've never been a proponent of the wait and see approach. And so our answer is just ask. We offer a free screen. We make it really easy for you to know if it's beneficial to start services at the age that your child is at. We answer your insurance questions. And I think a lot of that comes from the fact that, again, we just want to make it easier, and we're great at meeting a need.
Absolutely. And, even speaking as a parent, I am an occupational therapist by trade. I've been at Red Door for 15 years. I bring my little guy in for a screen to talk directly to the professionals doing the work about a concern I may have. It may lead to services, it may not, but asking that professional is actually really easy.
Mm-hmm.
You can call us and we can do it over the phone, or you can come in and meet with one of our really great, super knowledgeable employees, and we'll take it from there.
Right.
So for parents listening, how do they know to seek services? How do they know that perhaps we can answer some of their questions?
I think it starts with what you just said. It starts with a question that they're wondering about, and perhaps they don't know who to ask or they don't know where to go with it. Their gut is telling them one thing. Maybe someone else has told them to wait and see. We're not a huge fan of the wait and see approach. So I think depending on the age of your child, whether it's the developmental milestones that have caused some concern, or your child's not quite walking or talking yet if they're really young, or you're more concerned about a different diagnosis. I think just finding a place to ask your questions is kind of your best bet. And I think we make that really easy.
Absolutely. Yep, you can call. We're really great at screens over the phone. We have an intake specialist who knows a lot about the services we provide and is a knowledgeable professional herself. We offer a free screen on site in any of our locations, and so you can come and talk directly to that professional about what your gut is telling you and leave with information that may or may not lead to services, but certainly helps you get that question answered.
Yeah. Brandi, thank you for being our very first guest on our very first podcast. It was an easy choice.
Number one.
Happy to be here.
So if people had more questions or just wanted to dig into a little bit more about Red Door, where would they go?
Yeah, just reach out to us at Red Door. We're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we're on TikTok now,
Yes, we are.
And our website, reddoorpediatric.com.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Unlocking Potential, a Red Door Pediatric Therapy podcast.
Please like and subscribe for more interviews and content, or connect with us online at reddoorpediatric.com.
Thanks for joining us, and remember, communication is key to unlocking your potential.